We now take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Rev Nathaniel W Martin. Here is Reverend Martin.
All right, let's say
Now take you to the broadcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but never good night, and certainly never goodbye. We're happy to be joining you wherever you are, in whatever time zone that you are receiving this broadcast, this podcast in from KTYM Media. I'm Rev Nathaniel W Martin, pastor of New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in Los Angeles, California. And the name of our broadcast is called It's Time. And what is it time for? It's time for economic justice, for an economic reckoning. Don't you think, after all of these hundreds of years, that there should be some type of reckoning and recompense for those who have been on the bottom of American society since their arrival on the shores? As they say, as Malcolm X said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock landed on us. We are looking at our marching orders, which come from the 24th chapter of Deuteronomy, beginning at verse number 14. Let me read it in your hearing. Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren, but he means also she, whether be of thy brethren or thy sisterin, or of thy strangers that are in thy land within thy gates. At his or her day thou shalt give him or her their hire. Neither shall the sun go down upon it, for they are poor, and setteth their hearts upon it, lest they cry out against thee unto the Lord, and it be sin unto thee. That's in the Old Testament, where God was already speaking out against the inherent injustices that were just rife within the system of labor there in Israel and Palestine, even at that early stage of world history. And believe me, my friends, things haven't changed. They haven't got no better. The wrongdoers have become more refined in the wrongdoing that they perpetrate, and they have become more subtle and more adroit and more skillful at hiding it from us, but you're still being ripped off. Now let me give you the New Testament scripture marching orders, which originally when this broadcast started, that was our sole marching orders. James chapter 5 says these words in verse number 4, Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. We have to be mindful, my brothers and my sisters, that we do not defraud one another in our labor contracts, formal and informal, whether it be a handshake, whether it be oral, or whether it be written. What you say is what you must perform. I think everybody would go along with that, regardless of who you are or what station you are in life. If you're going to go down and buy something, you want to get full value for what you are paying your money for. Someone has wisely said, don't forget who it was, that you may not get everything you pay for, but you will pay for everything that you get. We as a society, my brothers and my sisters, my friends, are headed toward the abyss where you have the 0.1% having more wealth than the other 99%. That cannot be allowed to continue for the simple reason that safety, health, and human safety is going to what? Suffer. Because when I can't sustain my family, I can't sustain myself any longer. They keep raising up the costs, raising up the prices. What am I expected to do? There is no other planet, no other nation, no other county or city where I can go and have a good quality of life. Look at me. I have a good quality of life. You think I want to degrade or degenerate my quality of life? No. I want all people to have the same quality of life and even better. One of the old social gospel people has observed that it's time for us to move from sustainable economy to sustainable communities. And that sustainable community, my brothers and my sisters, would certainly include the fact that we would end homelessness in the United States of America. I know you get sick of hearing about it, but more and more of us are becoming homeless. The wind really blew last night here in Los Angeles, and just think about all the homeless people that are out there exposed to that wind, exposed to that cutting cold, with nowhere to lay their heads, nowhere to call home. And this city of Inglewood and this nation turns a cold shoulder and a deaf ear and a blinded eye to the cries of the poor who are suffering. Oh, we give lip service. We fling a coin to a beggar. We come out in Thanksgiving and give away turkeys. And Christmas, we give away turkeys and toys and all of this stuff. But what about them other 364 days of the year? You see, 363 days, 365 days in a year. We're going to give the poor something on Thanksgiving and Christmas. My. What do they do in the meantime? How long do a turkey last? How long do a blanket that can't be washed, how long does it last? We have to be honest that as a nation, we have failed to look after the poor of our society. We not only don't look after the poor, we do our best to make them more poor. And it is said and it is observed that the poor pay more for the same goods and services than the rich. Why? Because the merchant can exercise the fullest extent of capitalism. Remember, capitalism is the art of capitalizing. And these merchants at these stores are able to just charge whatever they feel that you got in your pocket for little of nothing. Little of nothing. Sometimes we don't even get the right good quality of food in our neighborhoods. We get the food that was about to be thrown away at the more affluent neighborhoods, more affluent suburbs and communities, and that food finds itself down to our local supermarkets and stores and places where we are obliged to shop. Liquor stores and convenience stores and all of that milieu that we are constantly exploited by. And I use the word exploited because that's what's happening. You're overcharged for food and products and goods that are overpriced and many times are inferior in quality and should really have been tossed away. But that is a product, that is a fight, my friends, that we're going to have to take all the way up to the halls of Congress, because it is our politicians who have put these dastardly bills into law. They voted them into law because they are paid off by these same corporate criminals, these corporate bosses that give them the campaign donations. And then after having given them the campaign donations, they come back and ask and receive favors for their bills, these lobbyists. Where does the poor have a lobbyist? We don't have that kind of money for no lobbyists to go up to Washington, D.C. and be up in Sacramento, California, and be at the elbows of these various council persons here in the city of Los Angeles or Inglewood. And that has got to be called out. And if the politician said that he was going to represent all of the people, then he or she, thank you, must be held accountable for representing all and not just a few of the people, because they took your vote in order to get in office, and they said thank you. And then after that, they said the other you. And that is nowhere near what the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or the representative government calls for. You know what I'm trying to say. Look at Wells Fargo. Let's start with Wells Fargo. My friend, that's where I bank. But I'm going to have to get my money out of Wells Fargo. Why? Because Wells Fargo has been caught another time with their hand in the cookie jar. They were just caught, as you recall, last year and fined $185 million, which was really a slap on the wrist, seeing that the amount of money that they made through the trickeration and through the schemes and devices that they exercise or utilize against the unsuspecting customer in opening up accounts that the customer didn't know were being opened in their name and then being charged surreptitiously without their knowledge by this same honorable Wells Fargo. And now, my friends, Wells Fargo is caught again with these car insurance loans that in many cases were unnecessary. They forced a lot of thousands of people. It is estimated as many as 20,000 people who lost their cars, lost them through the fact that they were forced by Wells Fargo to pay additional premiums for additional insurance that they really did not need. And you understand, if you're paying a car note, that's one thing. You're paying the car insurance to have the car, that's another thing. If you don't pay both of them, you lose one or the other. And so this is the scam that Wells Fargo was engaging in. If you want to get a car loan, they demanded that you get their car insurance, even though you say, I got car insurance already. No, we want you to get some more car insurance. And a lot of times that car insurance was much higher than your car insurance. The premium was higher. And if you were late, or if you didn't get in there on time, or if by some strange reason you were doing that automatic deduction thing where they just take the money out of your account, you know the term, and it was Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo managed to be late getting the money out of your bank account, which they maintain. And then as a result, Wells Fargo turned around and put a fee against you for their having been late in taking that money out of your bank account, which was already in their bank. Therein, my friends, lies a scandal, a scandalous, dirty crime. But yet nobody's going to go to jail. They've already made, or rather they're talking tentatively with the Consumer Protection Agency about paying what? Another fine. The fine this time, they say maybe $1 billion. But $1 billion is a lot to you and me, but they made over $2 trillion. I don't even know how much $2 trillion is. But it's more money than you or I are going to see. I don't know how much $1 billion is. $1 million used to be a lot of money. But now they're only going to be fined $1 billion. Tell me, my brothers and my sisters, what do you think about that type of crime? Why, if you did that, you'd go to jail. You'd be held to account. And you not only would go to jail, but you'd have to pay restitution. They're not going to pay restitution. They're just going to pay a fine, admit no wrong, admit no guilt. Nobody's going to get fired. Nobody's going to lose their job. And they're going to come back with a great big advertising blitz marketing strategy to tell you what a great bank that they are. These are the type of issues, my brothers and my sisters, that God is calling all of us to account about. You're not supposed to do a false balance. You're not to defraud your sisters and your brothers. Huh? I put my money in your bank. You supposed, because you told me to put it in there, or you invited me to put it in there, or you welcomed me to put my money in your bank and to partake of the services that your bank offers, while you have a fiduciary responsibility to at least be honest in all of our dealing. I got to be honest. I got to sign the line on that application that says if I have misrepresented, if anything here is false, then I can be held accountable and brought up on charges, perjury and all of that type of thing. But here, the big mighty Wells Fargo Bank is not going to be held to account. And they signed that same piece of paper that I signed. Huh? Somebody needs to go to jail. If a corporation is a person, as Chief Justice John Roberts and the U.S. Supreme Court has said, then that person needs to go to jail. I'd love to see Wells Fargo go to jail. Huh? Timothy Sloan even went so far as to tell the Congress this week that, look, I know we're wrong and we're trying to get it straightened out and all this type of thing, but I can't promise that there won't be some more scandals. What about that? Huh? What is it that the judge tells you when you stand before him or her? They said, do not commit the same or similar offense. And look at the big banks. They not only commit the same, they come out with the next scam. They got these scams lined up to roll out one after the other. Because they know that they are covered by the politicians who have helped them to pass the laws and put these laws on the books. So that even if they get caught doing wrong, nobody goes to jail. But in your case, you're going to go to jail. You're going to be compelled to pay a fine. Your name is going to be called. You're going to be not only raked over the coal, you're going to do the perp walk. Who's doing the perp walk at Wells Fargo? Who's going to jail? You see? And they get all of these little underlings, these little, they call them agents, associates there at the bank, at the local branches, When you come in, they got a sucker to hand you a bottle of water while they rip your pocket off. These are the ones that wind up, being fired. But they're being fired for doing what Wells Fargo told them to do. Now, where's the equity in that, my brothers and my sisters? Where's the equality? Where's the just balance that we're supposed to be so famous for here in America? It doesn't pass the smell test. Something is very wrong when you can't trust your bank to look after your finances. Every time you turn around, they're hitting you with a fee. If you don't keep a certain amount of money in there, they charge you a service fee. And then if you keep a certain amount of money, that means you can't use that certain amount of money because that's what keeps you from getting hit with the big service fee. The bank wins all the way around. Consumer does not win. Remember, in the subprime loans of which Wells Fargo and all of the big banks, the banksters, as some of the pundits and political pundits call them, banksters, which is another word for gangsters, all of them were complicit in steering black people into these higher interest subprime loans. I kid you not. You might have had AAA credit and were very credit worthy. Most of us have been very conscientious over the years with keeping good credit. One thing they taught me from a child, Nathaniel, keep good credit so you can borrow some money if you need it. All right, now you keep good credit. But now here comes the loan officer. He's not going to steer you into a low APR loan for the house that you need. No, he's going to steer you into what they used to call XXX loans. That's the loans that they made to black people. Remember, this nation was founded on inequality and treating black folks wrong here in America. Remember that from 1900 on through 1968, as I've said on other occasions, that this nation engaged in de jure discrimination in housing and in housing loans and in underwriting those housing loans. And they set up a color-coded system of green, blue, yellow, and red. And guess who was always in the red? You have to laugh to keep from crying, my brothers and sisters, because, hey, this happened. It's not imagination. It's not rumor. It's not legend or mythology. It's fact. It was the policy. It was the practice of this very country of which we are all proud citizens. It was the practice of this country that built the suburbs, but those suburbs were, according to the underwriting manual, those suburbs were built and the subdivisions were built and the loans and the insurance were only available if you were Caucasian or white, which means that it subsidized its white peasants. As Martin Luther King said, the United States subsidized its white peasants from Europe, but it would not subsidize its black peasants from Africa. And that, my friends, is the history in a nutshell of how things have continued, why things have continued as they are, why there's such a heavily weighted inequity when it comes to dealing with black people here in America. And then all of the advantage and all of the benefit of the doubt and all of the leeway tends to go to people who are not black. That, my brothers and my sisters, is a shameful, shameful legacy left over from the founding of this nation. Is that right? Because remember, this nation was founded on a lie. It said all men are created equal. They are endowed by that Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But the lie was what? At the same time, they were saying freedom on the one hand, they were saying what? Slavery on the other hand. And believe me, until that legacy is acknowledged, and that those unpaid wages are paid with interest, according to the scripture, for all of those days that the slave master went home with my foreparents' money in his pocket, making all of that money off of the labor, the free labor, the back-breaking labor of our parents, until that is paid for. You don't hear me. We're going to always be at the same impasse, wondering why God allows things to be as they are in the United States of America. You have a reckoning to account for. All of these evangelists and all of this crowd that's out there preaching prosperity doctrine, that's just so much what? Elevation of the same old status quo. Isn't that right? It's not trying to pull up the masses of the people. No, it's just trying to tell people who are already in the middle class how they can exploit their brothers and their sisters. Remember, it was not a stranger that came to our churches telling us about the subprime loan. No, it was familiar faces, young people, young entrepreneurs who walked up and said, I got a deal for you. I can get you a loan. I can get you a house. I can help you get some equity out of that house you in. It wasn't strangers that did that. It was our own people who were working for these large corporations, and these corporations had told them and indoctrinated them for you to get your commission, for you to get your bonus, sell this product. And here they come, got you, Doc, telling us that the sky is the limit and God is going to bless us with this what? Subprime loan. And you have to be careful, my brothers and my sisters, when people want to show you subprime loans, and you know you should have got a good loan, but no, you got to go in the other room and take this subprime loan, huh? And some of those people were members of our own families, members of our own churches, which shows you just how deeply runs this capitalistic exploitation. And those things have to be not only acknowledged, but you have to fortify yourself not to be taken in by those type of scams, those type of schemes, those type of ploys. I don't care how much they say, well, you know, you're not very smart if you don't take this loan. Well, maybe in your frame of thinking, I'm not smart if I don't take this loan. But if I can get a loan at 4%, why are you charging me a loan at 29.9% and telling me that I'm dumb if I don't take the 29.9% when I know I qualify for a loan at a much lower APR? These are the type of things they don't teach when they talk about that prosperity doctrine. But those are the things that they need to be talking about. Huh? Not living large. No. How do you get the lowest interest rate for what you got to purchase? How do you get the best price? The lowest price, please, for what you got to purchase. In my last few minutes, I want to make the observation that we got to get out of this idea of seeing how much money we can spend and start concentrating on how much money we can save on what we have to buy. Huh? We on the wrong end of the deal. We trying to show the people, like when I was growing up, if you had a nickel or a dime or a quarter in your pocket, it burn your pocket. You go into the store, going into that local store, that corner store. I got this here. Can I buy this? What can I buy with this here? And that same mentality has gotten us as black people and where we are in many cases right now. We spend too much valuable energy trying to impress people that we don't even like. But we want to let you know we spent a whole lot of money for this. And come to find out you wasted that money. Now, we're not getting off the subject. You still got to get paid, whether it's Wells Fargo, or whether it's from slavery, or whether it's from the Federal Housing Administration, or whether it's from the Fair Housing Administration, because you have been deprived, you have been exploited. We even have to talk about medical apartheid here in the United States of America. We don't even get good medical care. We don't get qualified, needed medical care at the time that we get grudging medical care. That's going to have to wait for another time. But remember, my brothers and my sisters, whatever you do, stop letting folk beat you out your money. Learn how to get paid. Really get paid for what you have done and what you are worth. God bless you and may God keep you. All right.